Deep in the heart of Burkina Faso, there lived a man named Samuel. Life hadn't always been cruel to him. Once he had known happiness. His wife, Amina, had a smile so bright it could light up even the darkest of days. Together they dreamed of building a family full of joy and laughter. But life can be merciless. That joy was shattered the day Amina went into labor with their first child. The small-town hospital had no proper equipment, and the doctors struggled desperately to help. Samuel held Amina's hand, whispering words of comfort, praying that both his wife and his baby would survive. But as dawn broke after that long, painful night, Samuel's world collapsed. His wife was gone. Only the fragile cries of a newborn reminded him that life, somehow, had to continue. Heartbroken, Samuel looked down at his baby, wrapped in a thin piece of cloth, tears streaming down his face. In a trembling whisper, he said, "I won't fail you. Even if the whole world turns against us, I'll carry you in my arms. I'll give you hope." But hope was hard to find. With no job and no family to lean on, Samuel wandered the streets holding his baby close to his chest. Day after day he begged for food. Sometimes he received a crust of bread. Sometimes nothing at all. At night he slept on the cold ground, using his own body to shield the infant from the bitter air. People walked past him. Some shook their heads. A few dropped a coin. Some looked at him with pity, while others quickly turned away. But Samuel kept walking, his feet blistered, his clothes dirty, his eyes heavy from sleepless nights. Still, he carried the baby, whispering softly, "Don't cry, little one. Your father is here." One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned gold, Samuel sat beneath a broken tree by the roadside. His baby was weak from hunger, and Samuel himself hadn't eaten in days. He prayed silently, asking God for strength, for a miracle, for a sign that his suffering wouldn't last forever. That's when he heard the sound of engines. A convoy of vehicles was approaching, surrounded by soldiers and onlookers cheering from a distance. Curious but too weak to move, Samuel stayed where he was. To his surprise, one of the vehicles stopped right beside him. The door opened, and out stepped the President of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. The president's eyes quickly fell on Samuel and the baby in his arms. He paused, his face softening as he took in the image of a desperate father clinging to his child. Unlike so many others who had walked past Samuel, the president did not look away. He walked closer. "My brother," he said gently, "why do you stand here with your child in such a state?" Samuel trembled. He had never spoken to a leader before. Lowering his head, he answered in a weak voice, "My wife, she died giving birth. I have nothing. No home, no food. This baby is all I have left." The president's heart grew heavy as he listened. He looked at the tiny face peeking out from the cloth, feeling both sadness and determination. "No man should suffer like this," he said softly. To the astonishment of everyone present, the President Traoré reached out his hand and gently touched the baby's head. Then he placed his other hand on Samuel's shoulder.
"You will not walk this road alone any longer," he declared. The crowd fell silent. Some wiped tears from their eyes. The president called for one of his aides and gave clear instructions. Samuel and his baby were to receive food immediately, a safe place to rest, and medical care for the child. Samuel couldn't believe what was happening. His knees grew weak as tears ran down his face. Thank you, my president," he cried, holding his baby tight. "You have saved us." The president helped Samuel into one of the vehicles, making sure the baby was cared for. As the convoy rolled forward, Samuel looked out the window at the darkening sky. For the first time since his wife's death, a spark of hope flickered in his heart.
Maybe life hadn't forgotten him after all. Maybe God had heard his prayer. That night, Samuel and his child slept in safety, under a real roof. The baby drank warm milk, was wrapped in soft clothes, and laid in a clean bed. Samuel, so used to the cold ground, could hardly believe this comfort was real. He stayed awake for hours, listening to his child's gentle breathing, his heart overflowing with gratitude. The very next morning, Samuel was brought before the president once again. Nervous, he stood humbly until the president's warm smile put him at ease. "How are you and your child today?" the president asked. "We are alive because of you," Samuel replied, lowering his head. "My child is no longer hungry. For the first time in so long, I feel peace." The president nodded. "That's good, but peace should not last for only a day. You and your child need a future." With those words, he ordered his ministers to provide Samuel with a modest home. It wasn't fancy, but to Samuel it looked like a palace. The walls were strong, the roof did not leak, and there was a small yard where he could breathe freely. When Samuel walked inside carrying his baby, he fell to his knees and wept. "Amina," he whispered to his late wife, "your child will not grow up in suffering. He will grow up with hope." Weeks passed, and Samuel received support from neighbors and from the government. Doctors cared for the baby, who slowly grew stronger. Villagers brought rice, baby clothes, and words of kindness. People who once ignored him now looked at him with respect. But President Traoré didn't just give Samuel a home. He wanted him to stand on his own 2 feet. "A man needs dignity," the president said. "Charity helps for a moment. Work gives strength for a lifetime." So Samuel was offered training to learn new skills. He chose farming, something he had once done in his youth. Soon he was given land, seeds, and tools. For the first time since his tragedy, Samuel had a purpose again. Every morning he woke early, carried his baby on his back, and walked to the field. He tilled the soil, planted crops, and watched green shoots rise from the ground. With each seed that grew, hope grew in him too. His baby, now stronger, often laughed and clapped while Samuel worked. The sound of that laughter filled the fields like music, reminding Samuel that even after loss, life can bring new joy. Word of Samuel's story spread across villages. People whispered about the president who had stopped his convoy to help a poor man by the roadside. Some called it a new kind of leadership, one that saw the people, not just the power. Months turned into years. Samuel harvested crops, sold some in the market, and used the money wisely, for food, for his child's education, and even to help neighbors in need. He was still poor, but he lived with dignity. His determination inspired everyone, and soon the president created something new, the Committee of Hope, an initiative to provide shelter, food, and work for the homeless, widows, and orphans. Samuel became a familiar face in the committee, not because he was wealthy or powerful, but because he was living proof of what kindness could do.
2 years later, his once fragile baby was now a joyful child, running, laughing, and shouting, "Papa!" with pride. Samuel's small farm flourished. His story reached radios, newspapers, and spread across the nation. People admired President Traoré, calling him the father of the forgotten children. Eventually, the nation decided to honor him with a great celebration. Villagers brought gifts, food, and music. Dancers performed, drums echoed through the air, and thousands gathered in unity. Samuel, dressed in his best clothes, arrived with his son. Everywhere he went, people greeted him warmly. "You are the proof of this day. Your story reminds us why we celebrate." When President Traoré appeared, the crowd roared with joy. Children ran forward with flowers, women danced in circles, men clapped to the beat of drums. The president stepped onto the stage, raised his hands, and spoke. "My people, today you have shown me a love greater than gold. But this celebration is not for me alone. It is for all of us, for Samuel, for his child, for every family that rose from the dust. It is for the Committee of Hope and for every hand building a better tomorrow." The crowd erupted in cheers. Tears flowed, laughter rang out, and strangers embraced one another. It was not just a festival, it was a day of unity, a reminder that compassion is the true strength of a nation. That night, Samuel walked home carrying his sleeping child. He looked at his son's peaceful face and whispered, "We once walked through darkness, but today we danced in the light." You will grow up knowing that leaders can have hearts and ordinary men can inspire nations. And so the story of Samuel did not end in tragedy, but in triumph. His life, once broken, became a living testimony. The celebration of President Ibrahim Traoré was remembered not as a feast of wealth, but as a festival of hope, love, and unity. A reminder that when a nation stands together, even the poorest among them can rise and shine.